Joe, it's 7 o'clock, which means it's time for Silver and Black. And I want to kind of come into this in a certain way. I think
Okay.
sometimes I can have an eclectic sort of thought process. I think that that's pretty well known. You got a coffee in your hand. You put sugar in there?
I don't. No, I'm a straight black guy.
Okay.
No cream,
well,
no sugar, no nothing.
that doesn't really work for the analogy, but we're just going to go and pretend that you do. All right.
Okay. All right.
So,
fine. Yeah.
well, so you're a fan of the song "Pour Some Sugar on Me," right? At the very
Sure.
least.
Something
Something that's always bothered me about the song is so the whole premise is pour some sugar on me, right? In the bridge, he says, "Do you take sugar?" He's asking whoever's involved here, and then what does he say after that?
Yeah, you got me, dude.
He says,
know.
"Do you take sugar?" And then he says, "One lump or two." Okay, that's what he
Okay.
says in the
Yeah.
song. So
Uh-huh.
we've established that the unit of measurement of sugar, the sugar available comes in lumps, but he's asking you to pour it on him. So we're just going to pour a bunch of lumps of, it's not like grainy. He's not saying, do you want a teaspoon of sugar? Do you want a packet of sugar? He's saying, do you want a lump of sugar? Pour some of these cubes on me. There would be nothing cool or sexy about this process. It would actually be maybe dangerous to have all these lumps of sugar, kind of falling in your eyes.
Yeah.
So I've always thought of the song that way. And again, that's the way my brain works. I don't know what to think of the San Antonio Spurs at this point. I'm out of options. I'm out of thoughts. I'm out of really just kind of patience for them. Dropping another one on Sunday night to the Utah Jazz, 128-109. They, of course, lost on Friday night to the Lakers. But Wemby did drop a 5 for 5. That was pretty cool. We got that toy, that, bright and shiny, brand new piece of NBA history. Added to the collection of Wemby's can't believe he did that collection. Meanwhile, the Spurs lost their 400th game in a row.
It's sad. And I said this going into the break. I really don't know what to think of this team because I don't think it's going to look anything like it looks now come next year. At least I hope it doesn't. And I really hope that the Spurs are aggressive in the offseason. And I think that's what Spurs fans can hold on to right now. When I watch these games and watching and listening to that game last night, it sounded like a very – well, first of all, I guess we could give them the excuse that they were tired, right? Third game in 4 nights, although they are the youngest team in the NBA. So that shouldn't matter. But it was a very lazy game to me watching it. The Spurs just kind of going through the motions. And boy, especially the way they started out. It was just like they'd rather been anywhere else than Salt Lake City, Utah, which, I necessarily can't blame them for that. But I just don't know what to think of this team. And I think it's going to look much different as we go into next year than it does now. And for me, RJ, quite honestly, man, I just don't understand why the Spurs chose to do what they're doing this year. It just seems like a wasted year to me for a talent such as Wembanyama.
You go through tanking, and there's always a level of discourse, right? When a team's in a tanking situation, I want to tank because I want to improve. I want to get the number one pick, whatever. No, every game matters. You play to win the game. All these stupid things that you heard in high school a million different times. But we did it. We actually did that thing. And not only did we do that thing, but we got the number one overall pick. Like, that's one reason you do it. And then you do that so that you hope that guy is amazing. That happened. like we already, we went through the hard part of all this. And they're worse with Wemby is so unfathomable. I agree with you. It was a really lazy effort, and I know you're not actually excusing them, but you can miss me with this, oh, they're tired crap. Like, it's the Rodeo Road Trip, man. Like, they're not unfamiliar with this. Welcome to playing for the San Antonio Spurs. And even then, welcome to just life in the NBA. And so I feel like the Spurs, for the most part, have done a great job of towing the company line of, no, this is the season. Everybody's got to be patient. But it did feel like on Sunday we saw a little bit of a crack in that armor. Keldon Johnson was benched after 4 minutes, and this felt honestly kind of stupid to me. I mean, because if Denver does something like this, right, if one of the best teams in the NBA does, you're like, okay, cool, send a message, right? Like, we're all with you. But who the hell are you, Spurs, to act like, we've got to bench Keldon Johnson? I mean, we've got to really prove a point here. Mitch Johnson spoke after the game, obviously, on what happened here, why Keldon was benched after just 4 minutes of play.
Just repetitive mistakes. Sometimes you need to change up the messaging or change up the accountability or how you do things, and Pop's the best at it. So
accountability, Joe.
Accountability. Well, look, Keldon Johnson, if I was a gambling man, which I am, RJ, I would bet that they are going to try and see him in a different uniform next year. And I think that's just the way it is. I don't think he has responded the way they hoped he would when they drafted him and brought him along. And so I think he's not long for San Antonio. And I think what Pop was doing with benching a guy like Keldon Johnson, he's been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And these guys are just not getting any better. They're not. They're making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I think if you're Greg Popovich, you got to say, well, I mean, at some point, I got to start taking drastic action. I think Pop has coddled these guys in ways that I have never seen Greg Popovich do before. And everybody tells me, well, it's a new brand of player and kids today and yada, yada, yada. And I just don't buy that. You play professional basketball. You either do it right or you don't do it at all. And if you're afraid to get yelled at, well, then maybe you should find another profession.
I agree with you entirely. Maybe that, I mean, you know, the generation or whatever is kind of, I think, whatever. But the weird thing for me here is now you're this person. Like we've been asking you to be this team, this level of disciplinarian all season long, because these kinds of mistakes are like why was it enough all of a sudden on February 25th? You know what I mean? Like it just feels it kind of feels like, you know, when you know somebody has maybe some unruly kids and family or friends come over and the kid does something that they've done all the time. They go and they get a snack out of their fridge. What are you doing? And the kid's like, dude, what are you like? You've never cared before when I would break the rules like this. Now all of us, and I don't know what they're trying to save face for. Maybe they finally say, you know, let's just try something different. You know, what's going to happen? We're going to lose another game. And in that respect, I guess I kind of applaud them for at least not losing the exact same way. And it's really sad that that's what it's come down to, is that, hey, at least you lost in a slightly different manner than you did on Friday night against the Lakers.
You know, and that's what's funny about it, RJ, is we're applauding the Spurs for the way they played against Sacramento and the Los Angeles Lakers. They hung in there. They didn't get blown out. You know, especially that Sacramento game. It was a game that they had a chance to win that thing. And that's what it's come to. And that's what's sad about it all, is the fact that we're applauding these guys for just staying close. Look, I don't care if Spurs fans are spoiled. I don't care what the answer is. You deserve, if you're a paying fan, or even if you're not, if you're a Spurs fan, you deserve the best product that can be out on the floor. And the Spurs failed miserably with that. And again, I don't think anybody will ever admit it in the Spurs front office, but this was a disaster. And it's been a waste, for me at least, for Victor Wembanyama's first year. And I know that he's playing well and seems to be adjusting to the NBA, and that's the one positive we'll take out of this. But for you not to surround this kid with some better talent, some veteran leadership, to me is just a huge mistake.
The Spurs turned the ball, Joe, over 20 times on Sunday night. 20. And if that sounds like a lot, like it's one thing when you hear a stat like that and you're like, oh, that's probably a lot. And then you find out that's actually kind of normal. But they turned the ball over 20 times. That was the most that a team had in an NBA game since the Clippers last year on February 24th. Yesterday was February 25th. So it was almost the exact 1 year anniversary. And you do this one day after history. Or not one day, one game after history. On Friday night, Wemby dropped a 5-for-5 night, 5x5. Again, whatever nomenclature you want to use against the Lakers. He was the first rookie to do this since Jamal Tinsley in 2001, and became just the second player to have 5 blocks and 5 steals in consecutive games, joining Michael Jordan. This is the dude that we're talking about, and then they're getting waxed by the Jazz. I mean, it's really difficult to believe that these things are happening simultaneously.
Well, it is, and it's sad. It really is. To me, it's sad. And look, when David Robinson came into this team, he had some veteran leadership around him. When Tim Duncan came here, there was some veteran leadership around him. And for the Spurs to choose to just go as is with this team, and maybe I'll give them a little bit of a break, RJ, because I mean, let's face it, they won 22 games last year. So you figure the same team You add Wembanyama, they'll be a little bit better. Or they're worse. Give them some time to get used to this guy, get all of that. But now, I mean, the season's almost over, and they're not getting any better. And that's why I believe you got to look at this team and completely clean house. But there's got to be some veteran leadership in the mix here, and whether that's superstars like a Trae Young or just veterans that are, mid-level guys, you got to get them in here. And Wemby needs that. He needs that on the floor. You can have Tim Duncan all day long at the practice facility, but you need a guy that can say, hey, did you see what that guy just did to you there? Here's what you need to do to counter it. That on-the-spot stuff is what Wemby is not getting right now.
Wemby was asked about this phenomenon on Friday night and about the comparison to Jordan specifically, and he said, I wonder if he did it in wins. And for what it's worth, MJ did. I kind of like that. I kind of like the passive aggressiveness from Wemby. Like, I agree with you. It would be wonderful to have veteran leadership. Sign me up for Trae Young right now. Whatever you want, let's do it. Like, I'm absolutely on board with that. But at the very least, Wemby, and I know it's unfair to expect him to do more on top of the just stupid Herculean amazing things he's already doing, but that's what happens when you're this great of a player. And so the veteran leadership is not going to come from the rookie. And so I kind of like that, again, that little dig, you know what I mean? That like, oh yeah, well, we're losing. And like, he's pissed off. He's an all world talent. Like, he's not used to being the joke of anything like this.
He should be pissed off. I mean, I would be. The guy's used to winning. And again, there was a learning curve for him getting into the NBA and understanding how to do it. Because look, it's a higher level than anything he's ever done. I don't care. There's no knock on the French league, but the NBA is the best talent in the world, the best athletes in the world. There's no question, and there's no argument for that. So it takes him a little time to get things, understand how things work in the NBA. And he's done that. He's showing that he belongs. He's showing that he can play. The problem is he's got nobody to play around him. Devin Vassell seems to be playing well, and I think he's a piece moving forward. Other than that, RJ, I'm not sure that anybody else is. Jeremy Sohan was a disaster last night. I mean, the guy looked like he never played basketball in his life. And so I just think that everybody besides Wemby and possibly Devin Vassell is expendable at this point. And I think the Spurs have got to make this team look a lot different than it does by the start of next season.
Yeah, if you look like Charles Barkley after the Monstars took his talent, it's not a good look for you, Jeremy.
Not at all.
So, yeah, actually, before you joined this morning, I opened the question to the Brigade Bar and to the world at large. I saw a tweet last Friday. I think it was Friday, it might have been Thursday. It said something like, how many Spurs, outside of Wemby, obviously, on this roster are on it in 10 years? And my mental thought was like, 10 years? I was like, I can't, there's definitely nobody, but even 2 years from now, I mean, Wemby and Devin, that's it. Like, they're the only ones that I don't even know that I would bet on Devin being on the roster in 2 years. I mean, you said you're a gambling man. Would you gamble on Wemby is, again, an obvious name, but would you gamble on even Devin being in this roster? Because I would bet that nobody outside of at least the two of them is going to be on this team in 2026.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope not. I mean, I really do. I hope the fact that there is a big change. Spurs have plenty of money. They've got a closet full of draft picks. They're going to have another high draft pick, if not the number one draft pick this year, because they're going to be back in the lottery. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to get that number one pick. And it's what do you do with it? Everybody looks at Oklahoma City, RJ, and says the Spurs are trying to model themselves after that. Well, okay, that's fine. But you got to draft well. Oklahoma City has done that. The Spurs have not. And if you're looking at a Keldon Johnson, it looks like, to me anyway, that maybe that was not a good pick. Josh Primo, not necessarily the Spurs' fault. The guy was a weirdo. So, I mean, that's the way that worked out. But, I mean, you got to draft well. Just because you have draft picks doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to build a franchise and build a championship team. You have to draft well. And the Spurs have got to get it right. But they've got to get a mix of veterans in here as well.
I agree with you, and I want us to remember this energy. I got so mad, and we were talking about this in Vegas, but I got so mad at Cowboys fans, as an example, who were like, oh, man, the Mike Zimmer hire is amazing. And I was like, man, y'all were just pissed off like 2 weeks ago. What happened? Where did that energy go? You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden you're willing to kind of come back And I get that sports are more fun when when we enjoy the teams that we root for. But remember how this feels on February 26th. Remember how pissed off you are after another 4-game, whatever game losing streak, however many it's going to get up to right now. Remember that if and when, Joe, the Spurs don't trade for Trae Young. Because if and when something like that doesn't happen, there's going to be all these people in Spurs Twitter. Oh, no, this is all just trust them. No, like, remember how this feels. Because if they do trade, again, Trae Young just kind of represents a hypothetical here. If they don't do anything like that, then there's no reason to trust them, right? Like I would argue it isn't even worth it now. You're throwing away an all-time season. Granted, it's the rookie one for Wemby, but you're throwing it away in the name of future production, future building, whatever. If you don't take a serious move in the offseason, then we have absolutely no reason to believe that you're ever going to do it.
They have to, and I just don't see them not doing that. I think that that you're going to see some serious movement in the offseason. I think that, look, Pop wants to win. They know what they have in Wembanyama, and you can't build the team the way it is currently constructed. We've seen that. It's been a miserable failure. You go out, you change things up, and you build around Wembanyama, but I still believe that you've got to have some guys that have been in this league a while that can help this guy. Pop said it the other day, they need shooters. They're going to have to go out. He's already indicated that you got to go out and find some shooters, and I'm not sure you're going to find that in the draft. That will help you right away. Spurs, again, plenty of money, draft picks to trade with and to play with, and there's no reason that this administration, the management of the Spurs doesn't go out and be very aggressive this offseason. They have to be. And nobody's saying that we want to, they're going to win a championship next year. But for goodness sake, they won 11 games this year. I mean, can we get to 25, maybe 30? I mean, can we see some improvement? I haven't seen any improvement at all in this ball club this year other than Victor Wembanyama.
They won 11 games, and this is a silly way to measure it, but that's okay. Can you close your eyes and think of damn, what a game they played? Like what game comes to mind when you can you think of one this season?
I got to go all the way back to the Phoenix games when they beat the Suns back to back early in the season.
Okay.
Yeah, those games, and they did beat Minnesota, right? At one point, win at home. That was a pretty good game.
That's mine.
Right, flashes, but. And here's the issue, too. You don't think the Timberwolves remember that? Spurs have to go there tomorrow night. So that could get ugly really quick.
Well, there's a lot of retribution to be paid, I think, on that front. Along those lines, were you affected by the service outage as the weekend began?
Yeah, I've got AT&T service.
I just saw something. And I saw something right now that AT&T, and I guess a congratulations to you. AT&T is apparently going to reimburse customers $5. Have you seen this yet?
Really? I have not. I'll take it.
So you're gonna get $5 as some retribution for the. I do because how would you quantify that? Like, how would you say, oh, you lost whatever, I don't know, 16 hours worth of service? Like that's worth $2.19, whatever. But so. You get $5 as retribution. What could the Spurs give you outside of a title next year that would serve as retribution? What could be the $5? For me, it is Trae Young. And I'm going to put that specific name, not what he represents. You got to go get somebody out that can handle this. You've got to go get a general. You've got to go get somebody who can distribute things, because Trae Young can make a lot of this look better. I love the ball in Wemby's hands, don't get me wrong, but you need somebody who is a tried and true veteran, somebody who can move, somebody who's agile, quick, et cetera, et cetera. If you get Trae Young, that's my $5 for my power or my service outage.
Well, that's I would even go as far as to say that might even be 10, RJ. So that would be great, and I would love to see that. Look, everybody says the point guard is no longer, and it's not necessary. I completely disagree. As much as people want to change the game of basketball, it stays the same to me. You need a quarterback on the floor, and that's what a point guard is. And you get a guy in there like a Trae Young who can do that. That would be fantastic. But get somebody. Trae Jones is fine. He's adequate. I think he'd make a great guy off the bench if you want to keep him around. That's fine. But you need to get somebody that can lead this team and that can help Wembanyama be even better. I mean, I just think we're scratching the surface with Wemby. And
we're not
what
even
he
scratching
can
the
do.
surface. This is the free sample of ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the little spoon before you actually pick a flavor to ultimately say like, oh, I want, chocolate chip or a cookie dough or whatever the case may be. But because I mean, like he's pulling on, like we're out of words to describe these historic achievements. I mean, Friday night was a masterpiece, and LeBron was all impressed. Did you hear what LeBron had to say about how he's not with him every day, by the way? Did you hear this?
No, tell me. Let me hear him.
So LeBron, obviously highly impressed by Wemby. How could you not be? But he had a line about how he didn't, he doesn't get to see Wemby every day. Well, let's just hear. This is the king on what Wemby did on Friday night against the Lakers.
He doesn't have a ceiling, so he can do whatever he wants to do with his career. He seems like he enjoys the game. He seems like he puts the work just from the outside looking in. Obviously, I'm not with him on a day-to-day basis, but I've said it a long time ago how special, he was. It's literally that simple.
So LeBron's not with him every day. That kind of, if I'm really trying to read between the lines, Joe, that's like LeBron saying, "I'll be your $5." Like I'll be there every day. Like just a interesting comment given the chatter about LeBron and the upcoming summer.
That's a fantasy wish, I think. I mean, who knows what LeBron's going to decide to do and where he wants to play with his kid. If it's a package deal with LeBron and his kid, I'll pass. I really will.
Joe, come on.
I'll pass because look, his kid's
even if you send Bronny to Austin,
you'd have to. Bother? That's where he belongs. I don't think LeBron's going to come here. I hope I'm proven wrong. With that, it would be fantastic. Spurs fans would love it, and it would be outstanding. I don't think he's coming here. But again, there are guys out there and with the money that Spurs have to spend, they can get it done. LeBron, the compliments, that's nice. That's very good. The only thing I would say about Wemby, RJ, is I wish he'd stop shooting threes. I know he's a big guy that can shoot, but he doesn't make a lot of them. So if he just stopped doing that, I think it'd be perfect.
If these were remotely normal circumstances, I would agree with you. At this point, what do we have to lose? Like at this point, what you're doing, Joe, is you're going to the circus and you're saying, I think it's weird that y'all sell cotton candy. You know what I mean? Just sell peanuts. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? We're at the circus. That's where we're at right now. And so if he wants to shoot threes, so be it. If he doesn't, so be it. Work on the game. That's all. These are just glorified practices right now for the Spurs. And I hate to say that, but I mean, the facts kind of speak for themselves in that capacity.
Look, I agree with that completely. And just get better if you're Victor. Just get better over there's 20 some odd games left in the season. Just get better and get ready for next season. You'll have a full off season that you can work and get better. But look, it's hard to get invested in this team. It really is at this point in time because I truly believe it's going to look much different next year than it does this year. I don't know who's going to be here. So, you're watching a guy and other than Wemby and everybody's watching Wemby, but you get invested. Well, this guy, I see improvement over here. And this guy, well, he's got potential. I just can't get invested in this team as it stands right now. It's going to be very difficult to continue to watch other than Wemby because he's the and I don't mean this disparaging, but he's the biggest attraction, the biggest clown that there is at the circus right now. And so that's what you're paying your money to see.